Good morning, class. Happy Wednesday, April 15. Today we will finish talking about the origins of the Constitution and how the U.S. Constitution came to be. Our plan for today, first, and really points 1 and 2 you can switch if you want, but I'm going to post a Quizlet with some of the key terms for this unit on the Constitution. I would like you to take a little bit of time just to review those. It doesn't have to be any more than 5 minutes. We will finish Part 2 of the Origins of the Constitution notes, and then to end today's class, there is going to be a Google form quiz as your exit slip. This quiz will not post until 10 a.m. today to give you enough time to watch this video, take your notes, do a little Quizlet review. These notes and this quiz are due 3 p.m. today. More details in just a second on that. So first, I don't care whether you want to take notes first or if you want to study Quizlet first. As long as you do both of these things before you take the quiz, you'll be good to go. We are going to finish answering how/why the Constitution came to be. Thank you yesterday for all the questions you asked from what we talked about. Part 1 of these notes. All of your questions have been answered. It is on Google Classroom if you want to check out your responses. They were thoughtful. They were really good questions. Some of them I hadn't even thought of asking before. So 2 thumbs up to you guys for doing a good job with that exit slip from yesterday. So let's finish up the notes. We talked about ancient Greece, direct democracy. Ancient Rome, representative democracy, a republic with a Senate, veto power. Talked about the Great Charter, the Magna Carta, that gave us the ideas of limited government and rule of law to make sure that government leaders obey the laws and don't have too much power. This idea of limited government is something that's actually in the news right now based on something President Trump said this week, Monday, if you want to check out that. Also in the news locally in Michigan, Governor Whitmer is being sued because some people on the east side of the state, and I think one in the north part, officially put in their paperwork to sue her, claiming that this stay-at-home order is unconstitutional. So we're seeing this idea of constitutional principles in the news on both a national and state level going on right now. Talked about the English Bill of Rights, which is giving rights to not just the nobles, but citizens in England overall. Things like trial by jury, etc. Similar to our Bill of Rights, which we'll talk about next week. And yeah, today we'll pick up with colonial times, our first plan of government in the United States, the Articles of Confederation, and the straw that broke the camel's back, so to speak, Shays' Rebellion. So first, colonial times. We are talking 17th, 18th century, the 16 and 1700s. In the present-day United States, different colonies had their own charters. Once again, a charter is not a plan of government. It is a document that gives you permission to create a government. Different colonies were founded for different reasons. Some were for religious freedom. Some were for more economic reasons. Others were to find a place for criminals and outcasts to go. But these are just permissions to create governments. Each colony would have its own legislature. And once again, a legislature is a group of people that make laws. So each colony had their own group of people whose job was to make laws. During colonial times, we have roots of various freedoms being established. For example, in the Bill of Rights, we have freedom of religion. This is something that Puritans, specifically the small colony of Rhode Island, Pilgrims, all came to the United States for. The reason why they came over the Atlantic Ocean for religious freedom, which is now part of the U.S. Constitution. Another freedom we have is freedom of the press. That was something that was established due to a trial called the Zenger trial. Freedom of the press gives journalists, newspapers, media, etc. freedom to criticize government and government leaders. And there are some restrictions to that. This idea of freedom of the press is another thing that's been in the news a lot because, as I think most of you know, unless you've been blind to what's going on politically in our country, President Trump and the media don't get along. That's something that's been happening pretty much since day one, since it took over. So these ideas of religious freedom, freedom of the press, having legislatures, charters, all of these are going to be used in the United States government later on. After the Revolutionary War, after the Declaration of Independence in 1776, when the colonists have defeated the British with some help from the French, it is now time to create a new country, which means you need to create a brand new plan of government. Each state, so they were colonies, they are now states, who together formed the United States, had their own constitution. So right now, Governor Whitmer is being sued not just for violating the U.S. Constitution, but state constitution as well. This is to prevent abuse of power, something called tyranny, having these constitutions, written plans of government to ensure that abuse doesn't happen. After these state constitutions, the states agreed together to form and implement the first plan of government, which is not the Constitution. In 1781, the first plan of government is called the Articles of Confederation. What a confederation means is that there is going to be a loose alliance of independent states. The wording used in the Articles is a, quote, firm league of friendship, end quote. So this is not a strong alliance. This is not promoting strong national unity. Instead, it is giving more power and freedom to individual states instead of giving that to the national government. The reason why they did this was because they just got done fighting a war against what they perceived to be an oppressive national government. They don't want their plan of government to create something similar. They want to give individual states the freedom against too strong of a national government. So the powers that the national government has, listed at the bottom here, so this is not the states, this is the national government, is 1, to declare war, 2, make treaties, 3, regulate what trade looks like between different states, between Virginia, Massachusetts, Rhode Island, etc. One power the national government is not given, and I'm highlighting this because this is going to be one of the main problems with the Articles of Confederation. They are not allowed to tax the people. The reason why colonists fought the Revolutionary War is 1, they didn't like how many British troops were around when there wasn't war being fought, and 2, they disagreed with the idea of taxation without representation. The rally cry was no taxation without representation. To prevent that from happening again, just don't let the government tax you. That was their solution. Last notes for the origins of the constitutions is Shays' Rebellion, which happens about 5 years later in 1786. Shays' Rebellion was led by a Massachusetts farmer named Daniel Shays. That's why it's called Shays' Rebellion. The reason why this rebellion happened was because Shays, as well as other farmers, were in severe significant debt. They were in debt, and the United States as a whole was in debt because 1, war costs money, 2, they're a brand new country with a brand new economy that isn't very wealthy, and 3, they were not allowed to trade with, and 2, colonies in the Caribbean who were controlled by the British. So there's no way for them to make money. What they do is increase taxes on land, which means farmers who own land have to pay more taxes, not to the national government, just to the states. And as a result, they can't pay those taxes and they go further in debt. Daniel Shays and other farmers get upset with this. They lead a rebellion, an uprising. They storm courthouses in Massachusetts for this rebellion. And what people realize is that there is no national power that can prevent Shays and others from doing these uprisings and rebellions, and 2, power to raise taxes and help pay off this debt. Once the people realize that there's not enough power to do these things, they realize that the Articles of Confederation isn't perfect, it's not working, and something needs to be done to fix it. And what's going to happen is something called the Constitutional Convention, which we will talk more about tomorrow. I will post this Prezi sometime tomorrow. We will not have this for your quiz, but I would like to tell you for this quiz. 1, it is not a quiz grade. 2, it is very short. 3, it's on Google Classroom. 4, it's due 3 p.m. today. So make sure that gets done. All I ask is that 1, you don't use Google, it won't help you. 2, you don't work with a partner, do this on your own. Have this done by 3 p.m. today. And make sure you take these notes. Make sure you study Quizlet for a little bit before you take this quiz. And once again, this quiz will not be posted until 10 a.m. today. Let me know if you have questions about the notes. Please ask me before you take the quiz, not afterwards. And I will talk to you more tomorrow.